Yes, a very important question because, when you do look at your life, and most of us sort of look at it every single day in one way or another, even if it is just with the complaints inside our mind, very frequently the question that comes up is this all there is? As in that very famous song. And, if you ask yourself that, is this all there is? And then you come to the conclusion, well, maybe you're no longer 20 and some of your illusions have left, and you're married, you have some children, your job is X whatever, and you say, well, yeah, this is all there is. So if this is all there is, there must be a reason for that. And of course, if there is a reason, you might say to yourself, well, I wasn't born on the right side of the tracks, or my family wasn't so wealthy and they couldn't send me to the best universities, or I made a bad choice when I married my spouse and things just went down the tube immediately, and then I lost the children because we had a bad divorce, or I made a wrong choice in my career decisions and things didn't go so well there, or I have a really horrible supervisor who doesn't promote me because he's jealous of me. This is something you hear a lot. So everybody's jealous of me, and
but aren't these all just a big bag of excuses?
Yes, but let me get to my point.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So the point is, you are giving yourself reasons for why this is all there is, and why your life is the way it is.
And they do feel valid at the time when you're living them, don't they?
Of course.
They sound like excuses when you say it right now, but if you're in the middle of that situation and you have the irritating, difficult spouse who drags you down, or the boss, the supervisor who just doesn't let you get ahead, you really do feel trapped and put down by this person.
Yeah, you might have dreamt of being a ballerina, and in at some point when you were 14, you broke your ankle and had to give up, had to shelve all your wonderful dreams of becoming a ballerina because something didn't quite set properly in your leg, and therefore you couldn't do the pirouettes or whatever it is one does as a ballerina. And so you wound up becoming a high school gym teacher. That's a big stretch from being a ballerina. Yeah. So in essence, what I'm saying here is that when you look at it from that point of view, that I guess this is all there is because of all those reasons we've just mentioned, you're always finding someone or something to blame, as you have just pointed out. And yet that precisely, because you always find something or someone, some situation to blame, is one of the reasons why your life is the way it is. In other words, because you have not taken responsibility for it for each step of the way. I want to just interject something that I wasn't actually planning on saying, but I was listening to a tape, as I mentioned to you earlier, Brenda, by Wayne Dyer on the way here to the studio. And one of the things he said in this tape was, all or any obstacle that you embrace makes you stronger. Now, let's take the case of the girl that broke her ankle when she was 14 and somehow had to shelve her dreams of being a ballerina. At that point, clearly she's going to be tremendously disappointed and perhaps even fall into a depression and so on and so forth. A 14-year-old girl doesn't necessarily have the wherewithal and the psychological knowledge to do what I'm going to suggest now, nor perhaps do her parents. But this is actually a turning point in a person's life that in developmental psychology we look at as being very important moments, key moments of a life, because from there on your life becomes whatever it is you choose to do, to think, to feel.
Exactly. Instead of going along that path you'd set for yourself, now you're turning to a different path, and
you're turning to a different path due to your reaction to the crisis, or to the difficult moment. And if that girl at that point realizes that she can choose The person who has a horrible accident and becomes paralyzed, the person who may have cancer and loses some important element of their body and realizes their life can no longer go on as before, even though they're actually going to live. They're not going to die from the cancer, but something has changed tremendously. Maybe they've lost the use of their voice.
Right.
So you have to make a decision, a choice of how you are going to deal with this. And most people here would say, what do you mean I have to make a choice? I mean, isn't it logical that I would fall into a depression, or isn't it logical that this would be just so hard on me that ta-ta-ta-ta-ta? And yes, of course, that is kind of the normal way we tend to react. But I'm here to tell you, and I'm here to tell you because of all the things I've read, not because of anything I necessarily have come up with on my own. You always have that choice to make. And the sooner you realize this, whether you are now 75 or 14 or 38, the sooner you realize that you always have that choice to make, and therefore, because of the choices that you do make inside your head, not only regarding what you're now going to do as far as a career is concerned, the gym teacher, the ballerina, and so on, but inside your head, how you are going to feel about this that has happened to you. This will then create the next portion of this life that you want or don't want to live.
Now, a question here. When you try to explain this to people one-on-one in practice or whatever throughout the course of your career, do you find that sometimes there's just a barrier to people accepting this because they don't want that responsibility for the creation? I mean, it's a big responsibility to start realizing you're making the choices and that you've got yourself in this situation.
Well, it's not necessarily that you got yourself in this situation. In other words, I didn't get myself into the situation of breaking the ankle, for example.
Okay.
Well, maybe I did because maybe I was a little careless, but that isn't the kind of choice I'm talking about, okay? The choice I'm talking about is, okay, so here you are now, your ankle has healed, you're going back to your ballet classes, and you realize as you do your pirouettes and so on, I don't have the right vocabulary for ballerinas, you realize, or your ballet teacher tells you, I'm so sorry, this just isn't good enough anymore.
Not going to work.
And you are very talented, but unfortunately because of your accident, you just will never make the grade. This is the moment at which you have that choice.
Okay, so this choice. But isn't this also a hard choice for many people to accept?
Oh, yes, of course. And when I say, oh, yes, of course, so quickly, it doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that I think that people should be able to make this easily. However, when you begin to put your mind into the idea and just give it a little bit of time inside of you, that every moment of every day you do have a choice. And you give yourself some examples, silly little examples. You're standing in the supermarket on the checkout line and the person ahead of you is, being very slow. You have a choice about becoming impatient or about becoming snarly, or telling yourself, okay, well, I'll just use this to think about something I need to resolve anyway inside my head, or to make your list for what you have to do the next day, or for some useful purpose, or just to practice patience.
Exactly.
But the point is you have a choice. So beginning with a little example like that, going to another example, let's say you have a tendency to be a little blue in the mornings and your life is kind of blue and you were weepy. And assuming we've checked out, your body and you're okay that way, you don't need some supplementation or hormones perhaps or whatever, then you begin to ask yourself, if you accept this idea of choice, as you wake up in the morning and you're feeling blue and whatever, weepy, you begin to ask yourself, do I want to have my day go like this? Many people here will then say to me, I can't do anything about that.
Right, exactly. That's just the way I am.
That's
just the way I wake up.
am.
I wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yes. To which I say, all right, if you do wake up that way, then jumpstart your system and try a number of different little techniques, maybe 20 minutes worth of little techniques, as some exercise, as some